Hi. Before we get into this, I just want to say a quick thank you for all the support you guys have shown me over the past 4 months. It's been a wild ride. I'm really flattered that you guys like this stuff. So, thanks. All right, on to the show. Today we talk about the Lethality Operative, which is a very fun dot spec, has a lot of heals, has a lot of survivability. It's a very fun spec to play, so let's get into it. As I'm editing this, I realized that previous mark is a dum-dum. I forgot to give my usual disclaimer. So brief disclaimer, I'm not an expert in the spec, I'm just a turbo nerd that has a basic understanding of what he's doing. If you have any suggestions, feel free to leave them down in the comments below and help out your fellow player. I'm sure they'll appreciate it. Alright, back to the real guide. Our abilities are broken down into 3 abilities. Our dots, our builders, and our spenders. Let's cover our dots first. We have 2 dots we want to be paying attention to. The first is Corrosive Dart. Corrosive Dart is a single target dot. It does 18,000 damage over the course of 24 seconds. On its own, doesn't seem that appealing. Our Corrosive Grenade is our second dot. It does 18,000 damage over the course of 24 seconds. On its own, doesn't seem that appealing. However, it does AoE damage, which means that if there's any target standing nearby to your primary target, it is going to splash and tag them with Corrosive Grenade as well. That doesn't seem that great on the surface. I get that. However, fortunately, we have our builder abilities that are going to augment the way that these dots are working. So let's talk about them. Our first primary ability is actually going to be our Lethal Strike. Lethal Strike, when used from stealth, is going to build 1 tactical advantage, which is our primary resource that we're going to be worrying about. Of course, as we're an operative, we have our energy bar to be focusing on. However, our primary resource that we're going to be building and spending is called Tactical Advantage. Tactical Advantage enables you to use other abilities that are going to be much more higher damaging and essentially the bread and butter of our damage rotation here. So, Lethal Strike, when used from stealth, is going to grant Tactical Advantage and do like 28,000 to 30k damage in a single GCD. You can see here if I spam it, oh, it's a beautiful amount of damage. Huzzah. It's also going to give me this buff called Augmented Toxins. Now what Augmented Toxin does is that it gives you an extra 30% critical chance on all your dots, which is pretty nice. So now suddenly, after 6 seconds after using our Lethal Strike ability, we're going to have 6 seconds of extra crit just by using our Lethal Strike. That's pretty great. That means our dots are doing more damage than that lame, 18,000 damage that we were promised before. But wait, there's more. Our most important builder is called Toxic Blast. Now, on its own, Toxic Blast does not seem that appealing. You can see here it's only doing about 3,500 damage when you initially apply it. So, that's kind of lame. Nothing else is happening. However, whenever your dots tick on the target, it is going to tick Toxic Blast as well. So every time your dots tick, you're going to be doing an additional 3,500 to 4,000 damage. So you can see here, whereas before when we apply our dots, it's only doing, it's ticking once in a while for about 4k a piece. Not that great, not that great. If I apply my Toxic Blast, suddenly, all these ticks are doubled. So essentially, it's doubling your dot damage for 10 seconds, which is pretty neat. Additionally, it's always going to build one of our stacks of Tactical Advantage, which you're going to use on our spender abilities. So you want to be spamming Toxic Blast pretty much as often as possible. It's a fantastic ability. It's going to be augmenting the damage of our dots, which obviously we're a dot spec, so that's very, very important. Finally, we come up to Shiv. Now, Shiv on its own doesn't do a lot of damage. It does like 14,000 damage, so not great. However, it has the advantage of having a very short 5.5 second cooldown, which is very, very nice. It means we're going to be building tactical advantages by using Shiv every time. We're going to be gaining an additional tactical advantage about every 6 seconds, which is just handy because we are a builder spender spec and this is a builder. Additionally, you can see here that we are getting this buff called Fatality, which means that anytime we use our Corrosive Assault with this buff active, it's not going to consume a tactical advantage. It's essentially an extra tactical advantage you don't have to worry about. So it's very nice. Okay. We've talked a lot now about building these tactical advantages. We can build them by being in stealth and lethal striking. We can build them by using Toxic Blast. We can use them by build them by using Shiv. But what do you use them for? We use them primarily on this ability called Corrosive Assault. Now on its own, once again, Corrosive Assault doesn't look that cool. It does 12,000 damage-ish over the course of a single second. Why is that good? That's not that great. However, it's also going to tick all of our dot damage at once. It's going to force all these dots to tick. So if I apply my Corrosive Dart and then apply my Corrosive Grenade, and then we'll build a couple stacks of Tactical Advantage here, and then we apply my Toxic Blast, which is going to be ticking all the time. Now, oh my goodness, the target is exploding in dot damage every time I use my Corrosive Assault. It is a boatload of damage if you have everything ticking at once. Very good ability. Very good ability. So the trick is going to be, we need to find a way to juggle building tactical advantages and then spending those tactical advantages on Corrosive Assault. There is one other ability worth mentioning here, and that is Toxic Haze. Toxic Haze spreads all of our dot effect, or our Corrosive Dart effect. So as it stands, Corrosive Dart doesn't have a way to spread on its own. Unlike Corrosive Grenade, which has that AoE, Corrosive Dart is stuck on the primary target. However, if I spend a Toxic Haze, it's going to put a big AoE on the ground, do a little bit of dot damage, and then spread my Corrosive Dart to any target within that area, assuming one target already has Corrosive Dart on it. It is our primary way to dot spread our Corrosive Dart. It's pretty neat. However, in single target rotations, especially in like PvE situations, it's not quite as useful. We'll get into the difference between the tacticals, which is going to augment these abilities in a little bit. So, how do we effectively build this into a rotation? Well, Lethal Strike has about a 12-second cooldown. And with our dots lasting for 24 seconds, what this means is that we can build our rotation into essentially blocks of 2 Lethal Strikes and then applying our dots. So, how it's going to look is that we're going to start off with a Lethal Strike and then apply our 2 dots. And now comes the time when we need to build and spend. Because this is the period of time where we're not worrying about, we're going to spam our Lethal Strike on cooldown, and then after 2 Lethal Strikes, we're going to reapply our dots. So during all this downtime, we're going to be using that time to build and spend our tactical advantages. So you can see here, I've applied my Lethal Strike twice, which lines up perfectly with the duration of my dots. So now we shift from spamming Lethal Strike and applying our dots to actually a priority system. I'm going to demonstrate this one more time. You can see we've used our first half of Lethal Strike. We're going to apply Lethal Strike again right as our 2 dots are coming off of cooldown. So Lethal Strike, and then, oh my goodness, it's like we planned it or something that our dots are going to be wearing off right when we get our second Lethal Strike again. All right, that's the very basics of building your Lethal Strike blocks. During the downtime, we're going to be doing a priority system. So, Toxic Blast is our most important priority. It's going to be giving us tactical advantages, which is obviously great. It's going to be causing our dots to do a lot more damage, which is obviously great. And it has a relatively longer 14-second cooldown, so we want to get that ticking as often as possible. It's also going to cause a Corrosive Assault to do more damage, which is obviously great. It is our most important filler ability. Our next priority is going to be our Shiv anytime that we're not capped on tactical advantages. This is very much a juggling act of not wanting to create more tactical advantages than you can actually handle. So anytime you are at, with the set that we're running, which is the Tactician's Jacket or Tactician set, anytime you are at 0, 1, or 2 Shiv or tactical advantages, you're going to want to Shiv whenever it comes off cooldown. If you're at 3 tactical advantages, you don't really want to be using your Shiv because that's just a waste of a tactical advantage. So, the lesson so far. Lethal Strike on cooldown followed by your dots. During this period of time, we're going to be focusing on our Toxic Blast and our Shiv. Again, we're going to be spamming our Lethal Strike on cooldown is our most important ability. We're going to be using our Shiv, etc. This is how we're going to be building all of our abilities. However, we're going to reach a point here where we're capped on our tactical advantages, so it's not going to do us any good to apply Shiv anymore. This is when our Corrosive Dart will take over. So Corrosive Assault, I'm under 3, so I can only use my Shiv, and I'm using my Corrosive Assault on cooldown. Obviously, Lethal Strike takes priority over everything else. Spamming. None of my brand abilities are off of cooldown. Okay, now I can use my Toxic Blast as much priority. I'm under 3, so I can use my Shiv. Spamming my Lethal Strike on cooldown. I'm under 3, so I can use Shiv. And then just spamming your Corrosive Assault. Now, I realize that that's a lot to kind of cover. So let's break that down one more time. Rule number 1, lethal strike on cooldown every time. Rule number 2, after 2 lethal strikes, you're going to be applying your dots because they line up perfectly. Rule number 3, Toxic Blast on cooldown after your lethal strike every time. It's your most important ability. Rule number 4, Shiv whenever you are under your max number of tactical advantages. In my case, 3. After that, fill with Corrosive Assault. I realize that that's a lot to kind of juggle. However, once you get used to the juggling act that is Lethality Operative, I promise it's going to get better. Those are our basic damaging abilities. Again, let's run through it one more time so I know it's a lot. So we're going to do this from stealth. That way we build with Lethal Strike, applying our dots. Toxic Blast, I'm under 3, so Shiv. I can now spend on Corrosive Assault. Spend my Lethal Strike, I'm under 3, so Shiv. Spend, I'm out of tactical advantages. Toxic Blast, Shiv. Spend, Lethal Strike, my dots are wearing off, so apply my dots. I'm under 3, so Shiv. Spend, Toxic Blast, Lethal Strike, I'm under 3, so Shiv. Spend, I'm under 3, so Shiv. Spend, Grenade, Lethal Strike, my dots are wearing off, so dot, Toxic Blast, I'm under 3, so Shiv. Spend. This obviously isn't clean, because there are other abilities that are our offensive cooldowns that are going to be giving us more tactical advantages, which is why that entire opening rotation looks so clunky. This ability is called Stim Boost. This is our primary offensive cooldown. Stim Boost is going to grant you a tactical advantage, which is obviously very nice, and it's going to give our Alacrity a boost for 10% for 15 seconds. Additionally, we have an extra offensive cooldown called Tactical Overdrive. What Tactical Overdrive does is it resets the cooldown of Stim Boost, Recuperative Nanotech, Volatile Substance, Lethal Strike, and Shield Probe, and gives us extra mastery for 15 seconds. So when you're in PvE and opening, a very basic opener, I don't recommend this as like the advanced opener, but a very basic opener that you can do is from stealth. Because our Tactical Overdrive resets the cooldown of our Volatile Strike and our Stim Boost, you can go Lethal Strike, Stim Boost, Tactical Overdrive, Lethal Strike again, and then flow into a regular rotation. So that would look like Lethal Strike, Stim Boost, Tactical Overdrive, Lethal Strike again, and then just back into our dot rotation. This way you're going to be building more tactical advantages very quickly. It's going to flush out the opening of your rotation. If you ever are out of tactical advantages and you don't have any way to build them, or your Shiv or your Toxic Blast on cooldown, you really have to judge if you want to use a Fragmentation Grenade for that extra little damage, or if you're running low on actual energy, just use your Rifle Shot to fill, and that way you get that little extra boost of extra energy instead of trying to be energy starved. Our third offensive cooldown is going to be our Adrenaline Probe. Adrenaline Probe gives you 50 energy over 3 seconds. It's essentially your I screwed up with my energy ability. You should use it when you're at like 50% energy. Anything less and it's not going to actually save you. One of the issues with operative DPS is that the energy regen management is wonky, in that if you butcher your heat or your energy, it's going to regen slower the lower you are. So it's going to punish you for having poor energy management. You can see here my energy is regenerating very slowly because my energy drops so low. So it takes a considerable amount of time for it to actually regen back to a full place. If you drop to like 50% energy and you do not have Adrenaline Probe, take a chill pill. Pause, just use your Rifle Shot, and then get back into the game when you're at like 80 to 90%. Because it's worth it to take that temporary L instead of trying to just barge through it and hope it gets better, because it won't. It's going to get worse and worse and worse, and then you're going to be sitting there trying to do damage when you only have 1% energy. It's not going to go well. Okay, now that we've talked about the very basics of our offensive abilities, let's quickly talk about our defensive abilities as well. Our defensive abilities are pretty lackluster. We have our shield probe here, which absorbs 23,000 damage. It has a short 30-second cooldown. It's not bad. It has a relatively short cooldown, which is nice. However, it's not going to knock anyone's socks off because obviously it's only absorbing 24,000 damage-ish. It's nice, but it only lasts for 10 seconds. We also have our evasion, which gives us 20% a chance to dodge, or 200% chance to dodge all incoming attacks for 4 seconds, which is pretty nice. But it has a minute-long cooldown. It only lasts for 4 seconds, so it's not... The cooldowns aren't bad for Lethality Operative. However, it's not the main way we survive. The main way we survive is with our self-heals. Our self-heals are going to come down to applying our Culto Probe to ourselves. Culto Probe heals 13,000 damage over the course of 18 seconds. You can apply 2 of them to yourself. Additionally, we have this ability that is going to be quickening. So every time you use your exfiltrate, which is your primary role, we get this little buff that says quickening, which means that I can instant cast my Culto Infusion, which heals myself for like 18,000 damage. Now it has like an 8-second cooldown, so every 8 seconds or so, you can be healing yourself for free just by rolling and using that healing. Additionally, if you have your Culto Probes healing on you at all times, you're going to get these beautiful little healing ticks on top of all your self-heals. Self-healing is the primary way that we survive as a Lethality Operative, especially in PvP situations. We have some extra utilities here that are going to help us with our self-healing. We'll get to those when we talk about our utilities. Okay, that's the very basics of all of our offensive and defensive abilities. Let's now talk about our set bonus and our tacticals. For our set bonus, we have 2 options here. I like to run the Tactician's Jacket. What Tactician does is that every time you get a tactical advantage, it's going to increase your critical chance by 10% for 10 seconds. So it's essentially just free crit. Additionally, every time you get a tactical advantage, you get increase your damage by 5%. So it's nice. It's real nice. It's just free damage. Additionally, you can have an extra stack of tactical advantage. So instead of having the traditional 2 stacks tactical advantage, we can have 3, which just means that we have more Corrosive Assaults to play with. It's a great set, especially for pure damage. We also have the option of running this set called Debilitator set, especially in PvP. PvE, I would not recommend this set. This is why I recommend people go with Tacticians first, because it works in both PvE and PvP. However, if you're going to be running more PvP focus, go with the Debilitator set. It's going to give your extra trait a shorter recharge, which means that you have more mobility. So instead of rolling around every 8 seconds, you can roll around every 6 seconds. Additionally, you're going to get 2 of our debilitates, which are our stuns, which is very nice, especially in PvP when stuns are king. Now let's talk about our tacticals. For single target PvE, our primary tactical is going to be syntax shots. Synox shots. Try saying that. I'm just going to call it SS. SS means your Toxic Blast is going to do 25% more damage, and whenever it critically hits, which is going to be a lot, especially considering we have our 10% extra critical from our Tacticians, and then our Lethal Strike applying that critical boost, it's going to restore 2 energy. It is essentially your get out of jail free. You no longer have to worry about your energy tactical. Additionally, with our Toxic Blast doing more damage, it's just a single target focused, pure DPS on one target tactical. However, there is a different tactical for PvP folks. For all you PvP folks, called Viral Elements. What Viral Elements does is that Toxic Haze is going to spread Toxic Blast effect, and Lethal Strike will trigger on all targets within your Toxic Haze. So let's talk about how it's going to work real quick. So, as usual, when we're in our rotation here, we're applying our dots, getting everything down. So now, when you apply your Toxic Blast and then spread with Toxic Haze, it's going to spread Toxic Blast debuff on all nearby targets that are affected by your Toxic Haze. And then every target, or when you Lethal Strike, any target that is sitting within your Toxic Haze is going to also be hit again by your Lethal Strike. So it turns your Lethal Strike into an AoE. Additionally, your Lethal Strike will trigger twice on the target you're actually hitting. So your Lethal Strike will trigger twice on your primary target. So again, spending. By Toxic Haze, my Lethal Strike will trigger twice on my primary target. It's a very cool tactical. It is much more punishing on the energy, because obviously you're not getting that energy regeneration that the other Synach shots gives us. However, it can be very fun to play around this, especially in PvP when your dot spreading is king and you can just be AoE farming everyone at once. Very, very handy, very cool ability. The damage can actually be comparable. Your rotation is kind of messed up if you try to run viral elements in a PvE situation. However, you can make it work, and I've seen people make it work successfully before. So it's really a matter of personal preference of if you want things to be easy and much more manageable with Synach shots, or if you want things to be a little more challenging but a little more rewarding with the viral elements. All right, that's all our set bonus and our tactical discussion done. Oh, quick thing about your stats, preferred stats. You're going to want to get your alacrity up to like 12, 20 plus alacrity. That's going to give you our 1.4 second global cooldown. For PvE, you're going to want your accuracy to be like 110%. For PvP, you can actually knock that down to about 105% on the accuracy, and then just dump everything else into critical, and then power. You want to try to hit your 10k power, but 9 plus is perfectly fine. Those are the basics of the of these stats you want to be running. Let's now talk about our utilities. Operative has essentially two sets of utilities that you can run for PvP, and then one that you can run for PvE. Now, this is not set in stone. If you have utilities that you think work for you, by all means run them. I am not the utility police. This is just what I like to run. So this is my PvP setup. For PvP, I have my reduced cooldown of Debilitate by 15 seconds because stuns are king in PvP. I have my increased damage reduction by 5% because obviously I want to be taking less damage. And then I'm taking curbing strategies, which is going to be, the slow is fine, who cares? But what we really care about is the flashbang leaving behind flash powder, which is going to reduce the target's accuracy by 20% for 8 seconds, which means that you are much less likely to be hit anytime you apply your flashbang. It wears off. The target has a much harder time actually hitting you for 8 seconds after it wears off. So it's like a mini stun on top of your existing stun. It's very nice. Very handy. Helps out your teams too. In Masterful on PvP, I like to run Evasive Screen. That way, whenever you stealth out, you're not going to be instantly ticked back out of stun or stealth by any dots that are ticking on you. Cunning Competencies means that any time that a Sleep Dart wears off, which is our sap for Operative, the target's damage is going to reduce by 50 seconds for the next 10 seconds, which is crazy strong. If you can get a sap off on a target, their damage is reduced by 50% for 10 seconds. If they're going to pop their opener during that window, which they're probably going to because their sleep darts just wore off, they're going to be doing a lot less damage. It's going to be very much easier to survive that opening window. Additionally, with our fortified Culto, we're going to be getting 3% extra DR for every stack we have of Culto Probe, so which means that with Culto Probe ticking on myself and I pop over to my defense here, my damage reduction is all the way to 33%, which is not half bad. Not half bad, assuming we have our stacks of Culto Probe rolling on us at all times between our Chemistus Realize and then our Fortified Culto. We get some pretty solid DR. It's nice. Down in the Heroic section, we have Revitalizers, which is going to give us free healing every time we use our Stim Boost. So it's going to heal us for 5% of our total health every 3 seconds. It's going to tick for 15 seconds, which means it's going to tick 5 times, which means that it's going to give us about 25% of our health bar back over the course of our Stim Boost, which is very nice. Additionally, it's going to reduce our incoming damage by 20% to the duration. So that means if I have my 2 stacks up and I pop my Stim Boost, this damage reduction is going to be, it's not showing right now, unfortunately, it's going to be up to like 55%, which is very nice. It's reducing our incoming damage by 20%. So it's nice. It's great. It's a great cooldown. It turns our mediocre tactical advantage generating utility into something that's actually a very good defensive cooldown. Next, we're going to take our Curative Agent here. Curative Agent means that anytime we pop our countermeasures, which is our threat drop, it is going to heal us for 10% over the course of the next 10 seconds. It's also going to give us the chance to apply 2 Culto Probes to ourselves instantly. So it's a great way to either give yourself 2 stacks of Culto Probe if your 2 wear off, or it's a great way to throw off heals on a different player without having to spend 2 global cooldowns on them. Say if I want to off heal Khalil here, I have to take 2 global cooldowns to apply 2 stacks of Culto Probe to them. However, if I had the countermeasures buff up and running, I can just give her 2 stacks of Kolto right away and get those heals ticking faster. Finally, I like to take blow for blow. It gives our evasion, which is our 1 minute long cooldown that has for 4 seconds, gives us 200% chance to dodge. It makes it a reflect, a 105% or 150% reflect, which is bonkers. Which means that if some madman sniper is going to be lining up a 100k crit on you, you can reflect that back for 150% damage. So 150k. It's kind of bonkers. If you are more comfortable with having more evasions, you can actually swap this out blow for blow for our invasive imperative, which is going to be reducing the cooldown of our evasion every time you're attacked. The 1 minute cooldown is nice. Getting down to 30 seconds is also nice, but the reflect is just more fun for me. So that's what I run. Unfortunately, these utilities aren't very useful in PvE. So if you are running PvE, you're going to want to be running nanotech here, so that way you have the reduction of AoE damage by 30%. Especially in PvE, there's a lot of AoE damage going out, so reducing that damage is pretty nice. We're going to stick with our chem-resistant inlays for the 5% DR, and then we're going to take our infiltrators, so that way with their 15% extra movement speed, we can be getting around the map much faster. Additionally, none of these are really going to be worth it for us. In Masterful, they're PvP utilities that we took, so we can take advanced cloaking. That way we get our cloaking screen faster, and then be moving around the map faster as well. So if you're trying to move between different areas on the in the raid, you can just pop your cloaking screen and get that extra movement buff for 6 seconds to get you over to the next target faster, which is very nice. Additionally, we can take Med Shield here because, frankly, nothing else is good. So the extra free 5% healing is nice anytime your shield probe collapses. And we can also take Endorphin Rush here because, again, nothing else is really that useful. So that's what we run here. Finally, the only switch we're going to make in Heroic here is we're going to give ourselves Circumnavigation. Circumnavigation is going to turn our Hollow Traverse, which is our teleport/leap, into a tactical advantage generator here. So if I apply this and then use my Hollow Traverse here, which is our mini leap, has a 35-second cooldown, I'm now going to generate a tactical advantage every time I use my Hollow Traverse. It's a great way to benefit from traveling around the map. It can also be used to kind of cheese out generating more tactical advantages if you run into a situation when you're out of tactical advantages. So those are the primary PvE utilities. Again, I'm going to run my PvP utilities for now. That covers the very basics of what Lethality Operative is. Again, one last breakdown of the damaging abilities here. We have our primary dots, single target dot, AoE dot, our most important ability here with Lethal Strike, and then spamming Toxic Blast as often as possible. Anytime we're not capped on tactical advantages, we're going to be spending our Shiv, and then any other situation, we're going to be spending our Corrosive Assault. It really takes some getting used to kind of understand what all these abilities are doing, etc., etc. So the most important thing you can be doing is practicing, sitting down at a target dummy, and just casting into it for a while, and then watching your cooldowns take over time. All right, so that's been the very basics. I'm going to hop into a PvP match, and then we'll see how it goes. We're going to do a commentary in this one again. I think that worked a lot better than trying to do the live commentary. So, all right, I'll see you in 2 seconds. All right, so as is tradition, of course, I get a hut ball here, which is fine. You know, hut ball is a pretty good spot for an operative to be at. I'd prefer to be conk in a hut ball. However, Leth will do. We have great self heals. We can also roll up and get the ball very quickly. I probably should have switched out of my tactician set here and into debilitators, but you know, it's fine. We'll be fine. Now we get a big spike of lag here right off the bat. When I get ball as operative, I like to run backwards. Running right into the middle of their team is just a surefire way to get yourself killed. So if you're going to be running into mid and picking up the ball as soon as possible, I would 10,000% recommend running back instead of trying to run right through everyone. Running right through everyone is a great way to die immediately. You can see right here, we are slowed and rooted for days, and then my roll didn't want to put me through that little grate right there. So it's been a real bad time so far. It's been a real bad time so far. We had to pop a bunch of our defensive cooldowns. We use our Hollow Traverse to hopefully get out of there, but it's just they're on us like fly to a honk of shit right now. So not great, not great. So you can see there's been a hot second. We got the hut balls. We're gonna flash everyone up and then throw the hut ball out and then stealth out, and that way we can get back to ours and grab the ball immediately, and then actually hopefully get into the action here without having 17 people literally out my butthole right now. You can see here that Sanctuary team is a pair of concealment ops that really want me dead. We'll be seeing them a bit more throughout the rest of the match here. However, we finally get up to a point where we can toss to our assassin, and then we are totally fine. One thing to look for when you're dealing with concealment operatives is the fact that when they put their volatile substance on you, you're going to want to reflect almost immediately. Concealment and scrapper, I'm sorry, whatever the corresponding side on pub side is notorious for not paying attention and then just bursting themselves for all the reflect damage. You can see here we try to get back down to our sin, but he just is he was too busy being engaged with other people to deal with us. So that's fine. We die. We're off to a good start, though. A 1-0 lead is a great place to be, especially in a hut ball when if they're going to score as an operative, you can get back to mid pretty quickly and pick up the ball and get on the offense pretty quickly. So we're going to run back to mid, and unfortunately, this man has the ball. Now, without the rest of our team here, it's actually very difficult to deal with a concealment operative, especially when he has help like this. This is a very bad time for us. We can try to slow him down. However, there's not much we can really do. We don't really have the burst to knock him down before he's just going to roll all the way through. We're going to try to do some big burst damage, but it's just not going to be enough. We can see we get him here to like 64%. He's going to roll through fire, take a bunch of damage, but he's still a stim, so he's good to go. Now, both our operatives are going to try to bully us here, so we're going to pop reflect right through him. He also is popping the reflect utility, so after doing half his own health bar to himself in damage, he's decided to stealth out, but then he comes back. The man came back. What a chad. So we're going to pop our flashbang here to reduce their accuracy by 20%, which means that if they try to damage us here, there's a good chance that they're actually not going to be able to get through us. We popped a bunch of our defensive cooldowns, and then we can just AoE them down using our AoE tactical, and then our friends kind of show up and save the day for us here. By putting down the AoE tactical, we can actually knock both of them down pretty quickly, and then we're just out of combat, so we're going to regen. So the lessons we learned there is don't reflect yourself for all your damage, and then don't get flashbanged, both of you at once, because by flashbanging both of them at once, it enabled us to reduce their damage output significantly because we had that utility that reduces their accuracy by 20%. So all's well that ends well, and then just have teammates that run out of spawn and save your day. Now, I did not realize here that we are the yellow team, not the purple team, so that's why I sat around here and played with my deck here for about, 30 seconds. But that's perfectly fine. Fortunately, when they have an operative or a Sork running the ball, that's not a great place to be. Apparently, this the scoundrel is just waiting for me. That's fun. So, and then the Sork throws to our Sage, which I don't know exactly what to say here. You can see here we're throwing out our off heals because we're at full health. There's nothing really else for us to do right now. Trying to support our friend here. Go in the off heals, give him the off heals, give him the off heals. Try to give him someplace to pass to. He passes up, but their operative was waiting. Gave our man the CC and then stole the ball for himself. If you get CC'd, you actually cannot pick up the ball. That CC being a stun, so hard stun, soft stun, etc. You cannot catch the ball, which is why when an operative does that to you, you're in for a real bad time. So we're going to put down our toxic haze, and then we're going to Veil strike them. You can see here I'm running the tactical is a Vero element, which gives me the extra damage on lethal strike every time that they are standing in our toxic haze, which is why we're doing that so often. It's really good for AoE farming. And then especially in a match like this when I'm not really concerned about my energy management, don't have to be too concerned about it. Now again, you can see roll, Colto, just taking advantage of all those off heals. Now I imagine here, I don't really need to be standing right next to this guy. There's no point for me to like stand at 0 meters. I should give him a place to pass to. So instead I'm going to stealth out because I don't want that operative to CC me up again. And then we're going to get ahead of this guy and get through this little fire trap here and then wait for our sin to catch up to us. The last thing that we want is to have their operative team, because those operatives are playing ball, is to have them come up here and then stun me and grab the ball again. That's a no bueno time. So we're waiting for our friend here to come up. We're going to pop out of stealth right as he throws, and then we can just roll to victory here. We're going to use our Hollow Traverse to get down there, make sure he can't stun us up, and then haha, hello friend, wasn't expecting me to be there. So now we're back. He's going to CC me getting the volatile substance, so we're going to reflect, and his friend's going to reflect himself to death, and he's going to reflect himself for half his health bar. Then we're going to put down our viral elements, wait for his reflect to wear off, and then nuke him. Oh, how the turntables, my friend. Oh, how the turntables. We're then going to stealth out here to get our dots out wearing off of us. That way we are going to be perfectly fine. That was a little fun engagement for me, especially when you see a bunch of people lining up to do damage on you. Having that reflect utility is just money right there. That is the good stuff. That does indeed produce the chemical. Again, just setting up our big burst damage using our blast and then our haze and then our vital strike is just is a lot of damage. Feels good. Now we're going to preactively pop our stim boost here because that's going to give us our extra DR. I see he's setting up for the big damage on us, so popping that stim boost is going to give us our extra little bit of healing, less bit of damage reduction, which is going to be really nice. Then we just hollow up to this guy. Thanks for the spot front, and then just roll away to victory. It's very difficult to deal with a operative that is getting up top, especially if they can get up to that second set of rafters. They can roll from the top corner all the way down to the end very, very quickly. So if you let an operative get up there, you're going to be in for a very bad time. It's going to be very difficult to stop them. Speaking of very difficult to stop, we see there is their concealment operative running the ball, so there's not much we can really do. So instead of chasing after him, because there's no one going to run it down, I'm just going to sit in mid, because that way I can pick up the ball right away again, and then just and get rolling, keep our little 3-1 lead. It's going to come down to 3-2, but as soon as you get that 2-point lead, it gets a lot easier to handle a hut ball. When you have like a 1-point game, it gets a little trickier to deal with. However, having a 2-point lead gives you the opportunity to let them actually score, so that way their primary ball runner is going to be back in their, or back in your end zone. Again, just popping that reflect, but he's too smart for me now. He's not going to tunnel into my reflect, so I'm just going to flash him up instead, so that way he gets the little extra DR. And then he's just going to white bar me, which is going to be good news for me. He try to flash me, but I have white bar on, so easy peasy, lemon squeezy. You can see they're all right here, so we're just going to heroically run away. There's no need for me to sit in the middle of this little team. I also have stealth out in 2 seconds, so if things get a little too hairy, we can always stealth out. Trying to set up a little burst window here, but it's getting a little hairy. We pop our stim boost, get the extra burst up, and then this guy knocks me all the way down this way, which is actually fine. Again, we have our 2-point lead, so we can actually let them score here and be perfectly fine. So that way we can just run, grab ball again, and then be good to go. We're going to stealth out here because I'm worried that that concealment operative is going to be sitting and waiting for the ball. So instead, I'm going to be sitting here and spamming my stun. But I was able to grab the ball just fine. Anyway, didn't really matter. We're coming up to the 2-minute mark here, which means it's going to get a lot harder for them to catch up for us if we keep up our 2-point lead. Here's their everyone. So again, we're going to wait for this stun to wear off. And then reflect yourself for all your own damage. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate that. Then he rolls off to the edge to nowhere, so we can just roll to victory, popping our self heals with our curative agent and our stim boost. This guy tries to get us up. It didn't work out for him, unfortunately. Sad times. So we're going to flash him. That way, if he breaks it, he has that flash power. It's going to be much harder for him to hit us. Gives us time to pop some of our off healing. By having that flash powder up, it makes things a lot easier for us. Obviously, their damage is reduced. There's a chance to negate damage entirely. So very, very handy, that flash powder utility, especially in PvP. Again, we're just ensuring the win right here, popping our self heals. You see we went from 0 very quickly all the way up to like 30% just by popping our off heals. Here comes their double operative team, so we're in a bit of a trouble here. However, we have breaker in 1 second, so we can just breaker and then roll through and then pop our DCDs, pop our heals, pop all of our good stuff. Their entire team is here. That's fine. We have our reflect in 2 seconds, so we're going to reflect yourself for all your own damage. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Going to line up the big burst damage. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And then roll away. Again, this match is much more of a lining up reflex and just running ball properly than it was a big damage farm game. You're going to see here it wasn't the most impressive damage, but I feel we had some pretty good plays here that show off the utility and kit that Lethality Operative provides with all the self-heals, with all the reflex, with all the everything. It can be a very good time, especially if you're popping your self-heals appropriately. It's just going to be good. It's going to be very, very good. So I hope you guys enjoy. If you have any questions about Lethality Operative, please feel free to leave them in the description below or in the comments below. That too. Yeah, that's all I got. I hope you guys have a great day. Thanks again for all the support, and I will see you in the next video. All right. That's all I got. Peace.